Hey everyone, this is Laura Gadenik with Laura Gadenik Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the week of November 9th through the 15th, 2020. This might be a bit of a longer video because there's a lot going on this week, and also I'm not going over every aspect because there's a lot of them. So I'm choosing the more important ones. So just to give you a heads up. Okay. So we start off the week on Monday with, let's see, an opposition between Venus in Libra and Mars in Aries. This has been building for quite some time as all of the, the Sun and Mercury have passed through Libra. They've also made this opposition to Mars. And then, of course, Venus later this week will make a square to the Capricorn planets over here. But both Mars and Venus are really strong in the signs that they're in. I'd say Venus is a little bit stronger because Mars is retrograding, so not moving in its normal forward direction. But once again, Venus in Libra is about relationships. It's about getting along. It's about compromise, creating agreements so that we can all get our needs met, etc. And Mars is the lord of, or the god of conflict, of war, of going after what we want. It's our energy. It's our pace in the world. And so, a classic manifestation of this aspect is conflict in relationships. Mars being the god of war, Venus indicating relationships and peace. So this could be kind of a culmination even, or maybe an ending to a relationship, whether that's like a friendship or a romantic relationship or another type of relationship. This could just indicate maybe cutting ties or going in your own direction. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. Mars and Venus are the two relationship planets. Mars is about what do I want to do? What do I need? And Venus is about what do we want? What do we need? It's this dance and this balance between self and partner and partnership. And both of these planets also really speak to sexual energy, to sexual drive, especially Mars. And so, this sexual energy is pretty high this week because of this aspect, or that's being reflected by this aspect. And just energy in general, not necessarily only sexual, but just your creative energy. And sex is a form of creative energy. But if it doesn't come to you in that particular way, then it could just be you have the energy or really creative energy to create and collaborate with people in some way, to complete a creative project or to get started on a creative project. So, it's not all bad. It's just, it's going to be intense, I'd say. So that's Monday the 9th. I also wanted to say that this month's astrology in general is very much so about finishing up cycles. Later this week, we're going to have Mars stationing direct, moving forwards again. Mercury recently stationed direct and is moving back into Scorpio. So we're having the final Jupiter-Pluto conjunction out of the 3. So this is just a kind of a month of finishing up cycles of, especially cycles that began maybe like 2 months ago. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Yeah, so speaking of that, speaking of Mercury, Mercury will enter Scorpio. Yeah, here we go. On Tuesday the 10th. So Mercury is passing over the same territory that it just retrograded through. So this will be the third travel through this similar territory. So retrogrades give us a second chance to do things over, to navigate again, to do things better the second time, or to walk away and maybe realize that this wasn't for me or whatever it is. So this is a second chance to navigate Scorpio territory from about to about 11 degrees of Scorpio. So if you know your own birth chart, you can look to see where that is in your chart and what house topics are being brought up. So just keeping that in mind, Scorpio is a sign. It's a sign that's heading into the darkest part of the year. It's very much so a sign about jealousy, about revenge, trust, fairness, justice, but justice to the point of it being a little bit tit for tat. So those ideas or themes are going to probably be re-entering our consciousness in some way when Mercury enters Scorpio again. And Mercury is going to be what's called in its shadow, meaning in the degrees that it was retrograde in, until November 20th. So we're not quite done with this Mercury cycle. You know, until about November 20th, we'll be kind of re-navigating, going over things again in that area of the chart where Mercury was retrograde for you. Okay. So on Thursday, the 12th, we have that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that I was mentioning in Capricorn. This is the third conjunction of these two planets. The first one was April 5th. Second one was July 1st. The first one was around the time that the lockdown happened in the US and when we had the first stimulus package released. Jupiter-Pluto cycles often, or when they get together in the sky, often have to do with moving around large sums of money. And sometimes it can be hidden because Pluto has a hidden, hidden quality to it. So it can be a little bit secretive or maybe unknown. Obviously, the stimulus package wasn't hidden, but just saying that this time around there could be, large sums of money being moved around. Could indicate another stimulus package. I don't want to say that for sure, but it's definitely possible. So this is, on a larger scale, does indicate a great shift in power, which clearly from the election results that is underway since Biden won the presidential election. On a more personal level, this is a good aspect for achieving personal goals and putting an enormous amount of effort into what it is you want to achieve. And there could even be kind of like Pluto gives that ability to be a bit compulsive and obsessive and really zoned in. So if you need to get anything done, this is a good week to do it. So there's a great drive to gain power in some way, and power can mean many different things for many different people. Some people are motivated to gain power through money or status, but it can also just be interpersonally or in your own psyche. Whatever it is for you, it could be like self-betterment, self-improvement. Yeah, so achieving personal goals and putting a lot of effort into that. Also, transformation of beliefs. Jupiter is the planet of beliefs and Pluto is the planet of transformation. So definitely a very powerful aspect and a powerful week. Okay. Friday, the 13th, is when Mars stations direct. You can see this S. So this means that Mars is going to start moving forwards again in the zodiac and travel over territory that it has been traveling through since September 9th, which is when Mars stationed retrograde at 28 degrees of Aries. So thinking back to that time, September 9th, thinking back to everything that's happened since then, has there been a theme that you've been, kind of dealing with or experiencing? This is a time to once again do things a second time. This is our second chance to do it better, basically, or to decide that maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this whole thing that I've been going through isn't right for me, and it could be a good time to realize that and walk away and put your energy into something else. But in general, Mars is about our drive, our motivation, our pace in the world. Once again, the god of war, so conflict, fighting, protecting, defending. Mars is direct, quick, can be impatient or impulsive. And Mars retrograde has, in a lot of ways, been about all of those qualities, maybe feeling backwards or going backwards, maybe feeling like you've been regressing in some way. This could have felt like feeling a lack of motivation, literally feeling like I'm not going anywhere in life. Could have felt like a loss of drive. Figuring out what you're doing in life and kind of if your efforts make sense. Conflict could have increased during this time period because Mars retrograde is not a happy Mars. So conflict, and really thinking about what area of your chart this is for you, which house has Aries on the cusp, and that will give you a clue as to where this area of conflict or challenges or lack of drive or whatever, where this has been happening for you. Yeah, and oftentimes planets can be represented by people in our lives. So if you have Mars, transiting through your 11th house of friends, it could indicate a male identified person who is struggling in some way and that maybe having a direct impact on you. Yeah, so, or, that person, maybe someone in your life who's being represented by Mars retrograde, acting more defensive or indirect, or struggling with their sense of motivation or anger. So that's something to keep in mind, is that planets can be experienced in our psyche through the outer world, through other people, and often is. So yeah, this is a second chance to do things better. So we'll be traveling over similar territory, and things should be turning around, really. It should feel better. It should feel like an ending of a cycle, and conflicts being resolved, misunderstandings being resolved, feeling motivated again, feeling like you're moving in a forward direction, feeling like you have direction again. These are all things that are going to be turning around with Mars stationing direct. And this is, between 15 to 28 degrees of Aries. So just keeping that in mind. Saturday on the 14th, we have a new moon in Scorpio. This is one of the first lunations that isn't absolutely crazy. So it's a good one. Other than the fact that Scorpio is a bit uncomfortable. It's a kind of an uncomfortable sign, just because of that, that time of the season where we're heading into darkness, into winter, into lack of safety, essentially. So there can be some challenging emotions that are brought up, but new moons are all about beginnings, and this is happening at 23 degrees of Scorpio. So once again, looking at where that is in your personal birth chart. Where is 23 degrees of Scorpio? Knowing what house that is for you can be very helpful in knowing where to put your intentions or where to set intentions. So new beginnings in that part of your chart. So, and you know, this cycle will be most pertinent for the next 2 weeks until the full moon. And it's not like you can just set an intention and then like do nothing and just hope that it magically happens. It's all about being intentional with your time and with your energy, and taking actionable steps to make that thing happen. So this is a good time to plant the seed of what it is that you want. And then as the moon is culminating to a full moon, you know, about the first quarter is a good time to take that action to make the thing happen, right? But by the full moon, hopefully it should have culminated or happened, or there should have been progress made in that area, or result appearing, or an answer, being able to access an answer. So yeah. Sunday the 15th, we have Venus. Where's Venus? Right here. Making a square with Pluto and Jupiter together. Like I mentioned, once again, Venus in Libra is about relationships, about compromise, peace, terms, agreements, so that we can all get along, get our needs met. It's also about pleasure and enjoying the finer things in life, and money, sex, you know, it's all about these pleasurable, luscious, embodied experiences as well. Jupiter tends to make things bigger, tends to expand whatever it is it touches. And Pluto, once again, Jupiter, Pluto can indicate like a lot of money, and large sums of money. Jupiter will maybe make you overdo things, or not make you, but like indicate that there's it can exaggerate, it can make things shinier than they really are. You know, it can, like, it's almost like maybe over promising something, or being overly enthusiastic about something. Yeah, so, you know, this could be like a day where, well, first of all, squares are a bit challenging. So this can be a day where it's like, oops, I forgot about this expense that I have, or this bill that I have to pay, and I like don't have enough money, or I wasn't budgeting for that. Oops, I accidentally bought something really expensive and splurged, you know. Which can be, you know, it depends on like how you are individually as a person. If you're one that's like, and it depends on like how much money you have, and like if that's even important to you. If you're like fine with like spending whatever amount of money, this might not even be a big deal for you. But you know, if you're one to be pretty thrifty and like maybe worried about money, maybe you never spend anything, this could be like a good release, a good time to step outside of that box, to be okay with making a big purchase. It could be a bit of an uncomfortable thing, like I said, an unexpected bill or something like that. Or it could just be like a fun weekend where you like spend a ton of money and have a great time, and you know, it's like not a big deal for you. So it really depends on where you're at. But it does, you know, indicate excess in Venusian activities. So this being, you know, sex, food, pleasures, romance, basically like indulging yourself. Pluto in the mix can make things a bit more challenging, with getting a bit obsessive or compulsive. Pluto can indicate intense emotional experiences, and with Venus in the mix, this could be about love, about relationships. There is potential for transformation, or regeneration through love, or through relationships. Can definitely feel very unstable. But it could be a really good time to expose deeply rooted issues in relationships, which can't be ignored. It's like once you see this one dynamic or aspect or way that you are with someone, it's like it has to be dealt with or acknowledged, or, you know, yeah. Control issues could emerge in relationships. Pluto can be a bit controlling, or it can indicate control or manipulation. So be mindful of like accidentally using manipulation tactics with a loved one in an effort to control them, or because we're scared, or we don't have trust, we don't trust them, or we're feeling really insecure. And remember that with Venus in Libra, and just in general, we can make requests in relationships and use communication to get our needs met rather than overt or covert methods of control. So yeah, it just could indicate some more relationship snafus coming up. But then, you know, this is kind of one of the, like, at least for a while, one of the last major relationship snags or challenges for the next couple of months. I mean, Venus will eventually enter Scorpio, the sign of her fall. She doesn't function super well in Scorpio, so, you know, might not be the most Venusian best of times. But at least, you know, when she's in Scorpio, she's out of range from Mars, and she'll be making sextiles to the Capricorn planets, which is a lot more flowing and easy and compatible. So anyway, this is kind of one of the last bigger relationship challenges for Venus. So yeah, that is the week. I'd love to know how it lands for you, how things are going. If you feel like commenting, that's how I learn as an astrologer, from people's real lived experience, because really what I'm doing is using the archetypes of the planets and the symbolism of the planets and the aspects, and kind of creating a narrative or a story or possibilities of like energies that are upcoming or that you could experience. It's kind of like a roadmap, but the map is not the same as the territory. It's not the same experience. So I just want to put that out there. So if you feel like sharing, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I will be back next week with another update. And I hope you have a good week. Okay, bye.